Hello, hello, hello. I am so honored, excited to be live with you today because today is a special day. It's the very first time we're hosting live reinvention shows, something that I plan to do every Thursday at 11 a.m. US Eastern. And what is this show about? It's all about thriving in uncertainty and volatility. Today, as we are still grappling with the uncertain fall 2021, with the side effects and still in some places booming COVID-19 pandemic, and on top of that, many other political, environmental, economic, and other disruptions, this is the place we come together and help each other not only survive the uncertainty, volatility, and disruption, but actually thrive in it. That's what the Reinvention show is all about. And I'm incredibly honored that you're joining me today across many platforms. So let me know in the comments, where are you joining me from? I am in Ohio in the United States, but there are plenty of people on the platforms that we are present today, which is YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook. There are plenty of people from all over the world. So let me know, where are you joining me from? I'm honored and excited you're taking this half an hour with us, because today I have the most amazing guest, the person who brought the word reinvention out of me. This was a real beautiful story, my mentor, my teacher. And that's why I want you to know that this is a very special opportunity. And just to let the global community know, we have Florida with us. Hi, Sherry. Somebody from Germany is here with us. We have Austria with us. How beautiful is that? We have India with us, and we have so many others join. So welcome, welcome, welcome. The very first reinvention show we ever hold. And it is a beautiful one. And that is why I wanted to make this place available for all of us, to help each other deal with volatility and uncertainty, to make sure that we are able to find not only what to change, but also what needs to remain unchanged. And that's why today's guest is so special. I'm honored to invite to the stage Mark Levy, who is my teacher, who is my amazing mentor, and the person who helps both companies and individual thinkers around the world to find their place in terms of differentiation, their way to stand out, their story. So, Mark, we are delighted to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Nadia. And thanks everyone for listening. What I have to say
Absolutely.
is that worth listening to. That's why.
Absolutely.
All right.
So, just to remind everyone, we are talking today about how to make our company or ourselves stand out and make us the most obvious go to choice. And very often, when I speak about the personal brand aspect of reinvention, because when we talk about reinvention, we talk about different dimensions. First, reinventing yourself, your company, your world, but also different sides of reinvention: reinventing your brand, reinventing your product, reinventing your process, reinventing your habits, and so on. So when I start speaking about, people are like, this is vain. This is such a surface question. Why would you start there? Why wouldn't you start somewhere else? And you are the person who is world famous, not only for your amazing bestseller, The Accidental Genius, which is a great, great book, but you're also amazingly influential when it comes to your, I don't want to call us products, I am your product, but your contribution to the world, which is definitely this amazing community of intellectuals. And among them is, of course, Simon Sinek, who you helped to find his why. You are bringing so many people to the world and helping them communicate and deliver value to the world. So, what do you say back to people who say differentiation, standing out, reinventing your brand? That's vanity.
Oh, well, that's why my differentiation is helping people come up with their big, sexy idea, the idea they're going to be known for throughout the world. So it's you need to be known for an idea. for something that actually moves the ball forward in the world, that's a contribution to the world. So it's less about differentiation on who you are and more differentiation on what you stand for. It doesn't mean that you're taken out of the equation. It just means, so for instance, for example, let me move this way. So you see, I have a poster. I'm not good at this. There, hold it. That I have a poster there. Steve Cohen, the Millionaire's Magician, behind me. So I differentiated Steve 21 years ago. Steve was largely unknown. He was a magician, but he was brilliant and an unbelievable performer. So in studying the field, I saw that no one was performing for the filthy rich, the decadently rich, the insanely rich. So I said, Steve, we need to change. You can take that spot. So he went to Cornell, like he was brilliant. Like, so we need to change your whole show around that idea. You need to wear the best clothing, charge the top fees, all these, only perform in the most upscale environments. And so we did that, and we made him Steve Cohen, the Millionaire's Magician, entertainment for exclusive events. Long story short, he is the highest rated live show in New York City on TripAdvisor. It's run for 21 years. It's rated higher than even Hamilton. He's made tens of millions of dollars doing magic tricks for people like Warren Buffett and Stephen Sondheim and the royal family of Saudi Arabia and the Queen of Morocco, people like that. And so it's Steve Cohen, the Millionaire's Magician, but the idea he is about is creating this atmosphere. He performs only in the most upscale places, like where you're royalty, essentially. Whether you are or not, you come in. So it's, if you want to experience magic, but if you also want to feel what it's like to be decadently rich and royal, right? So that's the idea. So it's not about like Steve, it's about the experience he creates for people. So forgive this long thing I'm saying, but what your brand is about is always about an idea. It's never about you, even if you're part of the differentiation.
I love that. So take a stance for something and be there, the driver of value. And that's the starting point of the personal brand. Is that it?
That's right. Well, when we looked at your stuff, right, you didn't use the word reinvention or so. No. It was all about, it was not what can make you most famous. And it was not about what can make you most successful. It's not that those things weren't important. It's not that those things didn't eventually get talked about. But initially it was, what's the thing that's most important in your life and in the lives of the people you serve?
Yeah,
right? Like
essentially it was about looking back and finding a way to explain what matters to me, not start a new thing that matters to me. There's a track record, and the track record looked like very diverse, almost dispersed and incoherent things that I've done in my life, that when you take 10 steps back, there's actually a common thing, which was always about helping people reinvent in response or preventatively to avoid disruption and avoid distraction. So it was all about how can we find an antidote for the uncertain and volatile age. And it was the term that made the most sense. I remember that conversation so clearly, where you pressed me and you said, okay, if this was a job in a company, what was the title? And it took me like long pause, and I kept saying, well, it's not chief strategy officer because there is no execution usually in strategy, and it's not chief innovation officer because sometimes you need to innovate, but very often you need to also preserve the old and find a better version for the old. And it's not chief transformation officer because it's lacking finance and strategy and many other things. And I paused and I said, well, I think it's closest to chief reinvention officer. And then you said, let me check if the URL is available.
Right. Well, and the thing that made that so interesting to me, it was the concept of reinvention, but it was also, we checked, like people were not using chief reinvention officer. So it was the fact, And the real key to this was you said reinvention is so important that most organizations kind of only look to do it when they absolutely have to. So in other words, they turn away from the volatility at times
Mhm.
to do other things, which are important to do. But then, like when they turn back, things have already happened, or so they need someone who is a seat at the table, who understands what's happening in the world and the organization and understands all the changes that are happening. That their job is to monitor and to lead in the brand new stuff, not just getting stuff done, but what's all the newest stuff that relates to them. And you said you that can't be someone's side job.
Yes.
So that's where it was your saying the chief reinvention officer, like that was that role that was so pivotal.
Well, here I want to give a chance to our community to ask questions around differentiation and reinventing your personal brand and your personal positioning. So, in the comments, this is the time for you to share the greatest challenges you personally have. And I will ask a question that was submitted in advance. And the question is all for where do you start? When we look at your success stories, and you brought in so many amazing people, brands, stances, and differentiation and positioning solutions. And you look at some of them who are superstars right now, and it's a little bit intimidating. It feels far, it feels nearly impossible. You look whether it's some individuals like Simon Sinek or big corporations, their ideal brand is so far away that it feels almost impossible, intimidating. If I'm just starting out and I'm thinking about either finding a place of differentiation for myself or helping my company or my product stand out, where do I start?
Yeah. So the first thing is you need to look at your brand or what it is you do in the world. You need to, I'm going to say the opposite of what most people say. I would say that you first need to look at your company and your brand dispassionately. Dispassionately. You need to remove yourself from the equation. What you're doing is you're creating a company, or the way I think of it, it's working on a project or you're creating a work of art. And that's why when I do this stuff, I'm able to give advice to the highest level people. I mean, I've done work with people who headed divisions of the White House and things of that nature. And it's because I'm not looking at it from some personal level. I'm looking at it as independent of the human beings involved. It's like, what's the idea? Like it's all design parameters.
Yes.
That's all I'm like. So take yourself out of the equation. And then the second step, and forgive me, I'm being very prescriptive here, is the idea of one great place to start is to say, when people come to your industry, what are all the stereotypes that they have about your industry? I actually first learned this from a friend of mine, Michelle Naray, many years ago. And it was the idea, if they came to speak to you and they didn't know you personally, so this is, again, not about you whatsoever, they still have worked with people or companies or bought products in your industry. What are all the stereotypes that they have about those products or that industry, right? What do they assume you're going to tell them if they spoke to you? And so you get that stuff out there, like where are their minds before they get to you? And then the second half of that is, what are all the ways I am different from the stereotypes? What ideas, what insights, what stories, what exercises, what product features, like what are all the ways I am different from the stereotype? And one of those differences may be elevated to big, sexy idea height, or you might take two of them and stick them together and create something. But even if you don't, you're going to have really important information to share with people, because you need to talk about how you're different, and you need to surprise people with how you're different. Because if they only expect you to say like what it is that's already out there, they have no reason to listen to you. So it is essential that you be different and that you be able to articulate the difference in surprising ways so they pay attention to you. Does that make sense?
It does, and it is very surprising. So let's start with the first one. Number one, take the passion out, which is almost exact opposite of what you hear all the time.
All the
That your
time.
passion should be in, your heart should be in. You need to bring the whole passion to work. Can you say a little bit of how can we take the passion out? Maybe an exercise, maybe a brainstorm that somebody who's listening today can do with their team if they're talking about differentiating their product and they're all obsessing over their product. How can they take the
Yeah.
passion?
Well, actually, no one's ever asked me this question. So I'll make up some stuff on the fly and then you can tell me if it's good or not. So I'll just tell you the way I think about it. It's the fact of the way I look at it is you, the people like you listening to us speaking right now, you have many different products, you have many different services that you are going to be bringing to the world, that you have or will be or whatnot. And so to closely align yourself with any one thing is to me a little unnecessary. It's a little distorting. So, I mean, I guess I approach this from the point of view of logic. It's like I'm not, I say I'm all about creating a big, sexy idea, but like there's so many things. There's so many things that I am that I just use the idea of creating your big, sexy idea. It's like the foot in the door. It's emblematic of who I am. It's an important part of who I am. It's natural to who I am, but it's not me in totality. And so I'm just very aware that there's many components that make up a human being. And so you're leading with one, and years later, you're going to be leading with other things or whatnot. So I'm able to see down the road. And so that's why I think, and then I'll shut up about this, but I think because I've been in the business world for so long, I'm 58 years old. I've been and I used to sell books for a living like 30 years ago or so, that I've seen all kinds of ideas that were at the top of the world, like re-engineering and the quality movement and management by objectives. And so that I've seen things that took the world by storm and now they don't.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean that they didn't do good in the world. It's that they had their place in the sun. They created a lot of good for people, and then people evolved into other things. So that's how I look at anything I'm doing, anything you're doing. It's all stages in a rocket ship.
Yes.
Like once the thrusters get you into outer space, that thruster should drop away.
I love that
metaphor. What's that? Yeah.
I love that metaphor.
Yeah, thank you. If you hold on to the thruster, you'll never get to the moon or you'll never get to Mars. So this thing that got you into outer space, sometimes people desperately hold on to it. It's supposed to drop away and burn up. That's its job. So whatever it is you're creating now to get your foot in the door, to differentiate, that's great. And at some point, it needs to drop away and burn up. So I'm aware of that from the beginning.
I love that. I love that. And I'm not alone. Sherry is right here saying that she loves that as well.
Thank you, Sherry.
I think this is very, very important. And I think it is a crucial first step, is that we tend to think when we start about your big, sexy idea, your big why, your differentiation, your brand, it has to be about your passion, bring your heart in. Yes, and I love what you just said, Mark. You're bigger than any one idea. You are always bigger. Your product, your company is always bigger. So don't think that this one differentiator, one position, one brand will ever comprise the incredible multitude of who you are. And you're an evolving person, and your company or your product is an evolution. So I love the idea of a rocket, that at any point your brand, your differentiation is what gets you in the air, and it's supposed to fall off. That's reinvention. That is allowing yourself to let go on time and not holding on to it, because it will bring the whole rocket down if you're holding on to it longer than necessary.
You won't get anywhere.
You won't get anywhere.
I love everything you're saying. And it's the idea of, I'm a big believer. I'm kind of an existentialist. So I'm a big believer in the idea that you personally create meaning, that I don't necessarily think meaning is out there. You can argue against that, but it's that I believe that you create meaning. So it's the idea of creating new meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's going through the world and having new experiences and creating new meaning based on those experiences. It's just that your big sexy idea is a foot in the door idea that's emblematic of your philosophy or your product or whatever it is, and you use it to get people excited. It's not a distortion. It's not like a bait and switch thing. It's real.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it won't always be at the fore of what you're doing because you're going to create more meaning. You're better than that thing.
I love that. So number one, take the passion out. And the ways you can do that is reminding yourself that this is not your entire life and you will let go of this stage in the rocket launch. And the second thing is analyzing the stereotypes that haunt your profession or your product or your field. This analysis becomes a source of an interesting, unique place on the market. And finally, look for the elements of surprise. Why is surprise so important? What's the role of surprise?
Oh, yeah. Well, surprise, the whole idea, the reason why something is surprising is it defeats expectations. Right? That's kind of I didn't read that. So I mean, I don't know what the dictionary definition of surprise is, but like just since you asked me off the top of my head, it's like expectations are going one way and then something happens and it goes up or down or sideways or so. So that means surprise. And surprise, you have to pay attention to surprise because you don't know which direction it's going to go in. So while you're listening, it forces you to pay attention. And surprise is kind of usually delightful. When you get surprised, usually surprises aren't bad. They're usually more delightful. So, essentially and you know this because working with you, it's the idea of in each thing that you're in, each piece of philosophy that you come up with or idea for your business, what's the surprising thing here? Like when we did your PDF Built to Reinvent.
Yes.
Right? I coached you on that. So it was the idea of, let's come up with the 10 commandments of reinvention, but what in here is something that people don't know. Mm-hmm. So that's why in each point, it's not like it's just an ingredient. Like, oh, you need flour and sugar and 6 eggs. And it's not just that stuff. It's, oh, you need 6 eggs, but make sure you get guinea hen eggs because the reason being, it's something you didn't know. So if people read Built to Reinvent or anything you do, it's always predicated on, oh, here's what you didn't know about the story. Like, for instance, the Titanic syndrome.
Yes.
It's all about the story. It's predicated. I mean, you wrote this. It's predicated on what's the story behind the story that people don't expect. Mm-hmm. Everyone thinks they know the story of the Titanic, but what are all these different things that they just didn't realize on it? So anyone listening to your business, if you have to pitch your business, whether it's a product or service, it is essential that you surprise people, that you have to say. And what I ask people to do, the phrase I use is I say, what do you know that they don't know? What ideas, insights, stories? I often say when I'm giving a keynote, I often say this is the single most important piece of advice that I have to give you and likely that I would ever have to give you. And it's, what do you know that they don't know? So what do you know that they don't know? Or what do you know that 80% of them don't know? Or what do you know that they may know, but they haven't thought to say? What do you know that they don't know? And so when I sit down and I write a blog post or I write a speech or I create differentiation or I'm writing a book or something, 100% of the time, this is not one of those things, people say stuff because it sounds good, like, oh yeah, I'm going to say this, it sounds good. This is every time I sit down, I say to myself, okay, what do I know that they don't know? and that becomes part of the package of what we create. So you asked about surprise. That's why.
I'm just typing that up for our audience, and everyone has a moment to ask a question as we're wrapping up. But I think that is crucial.
Wrapping up. I'm just getting started.
We are already at 25 minutes. This
Oh my
flies
God.
too fast. But absolutely, what do you know that they don't know? When you ask me that question, and I think the two exercises that were crucial as we were looking for the reinvention as a brand, before the word reinvention was our brand. And by the way, just a reminder to everyone, I had a consulting business that I started in 2007. By 2014, we were out of capacity. We were sold out, but we had no name, no website, no business card. I came to you because I'm like, okay, I think we need to think differently about our offer. And for that, we need a brand and differentiation and positioning. And I need your help. But I had nothing, right? We had a lot of track record of success, but we had no way to explain what in the heck do we do, because nothing that what we did was available on the market. So it was a very confusing time for them, for me, for my team. And we couldn't figure out how we're going to explain. And the two exercises that were crucial. One is, what do I know that they don't know that allows me to be successful right now? And number one thing I told you is that what people don't know is that the business cycles are shrinking rapidly. And that was the starting point of everything we do. If you understand that most of the business history, our cycles were extremely long, whether it's a product cycle, process cycle, or business model cycle, the average life cycle of a business model in the 20th century was 75 years. That means a completely different rules of the game compared to the average cycles now, which are somewhere around 6. And I said, when you know this, everything changes. And you're like, you need to write it down. So that was the second most important advice. Number one, what do you know that your audience does not know? Or if you're talking about the product, what does this product know or is based on or functions of that the audience doesn't fully understand and comprehend? And the second is figuring out some sort of manifesto, writing just very simple commandments of sort that are driving you forward, and they themselves become a source of huge differentiation as well.
Right. Well, and by the way, sometimes when I'm coaching people to write a manifesto or something like that for their product or their company, and they'll say, oh, so should I write 10 things? Like Nadia has the 10 commandments. And I said, no, we just made that up because it sounded good. It could have been 17 commandments, or it could have been 4. And then they'll say, this is very common, what I'm saying. This is not like an occasional thing. They'll say, oh, should it be 7 or 3? People tell me 3s or whatnot. And I say to them, that you're looking to the wrong spot. You're looking to people please. You're looking to, you know what I mean? You're paying too much attention to the audience, and it's making you obsess about silly things. So what it is you need to think about what's most important that that they don't know, that's super, super cool. Or, like, what is it that desperately they should know just because this is just so important to the product? And then when you get that stuff, then you can decide about, it's not that paying attention to the audience is silly. It's that trying to get it to like a specific number or so. It's like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. If you have something important to say, they'll stick around for 78 things. If you have nothing important to say, they won't listen to 2 things.
I love that. I love that. So don't worry about the technicality of differentiation. That should be the second question. The first question is, what are the few key things that truly, truly matter? And then you can package them into whatever format you want. So final advice on how do you make yourself, your company, your brand stand out?
I'm doing this on the fly. All right. So my final advice would be this, that often, so you may be searching desperately for your differentiation. And sometimes I'll hang out with clients when they're speaking. I see them speaking to prospects or so. I'm like hanging out with them, and the prospect will laugh at stuff in a good way, like, or be very excited about something or so. Like they'll start emoting or whatnot. And and afterwards I'll speak to my client, and they didn't really remember that happened. So I tell them, you are really already workshopping ideas that should be part of your differentiation, if not your big sexy idea. You need to watch people as you're speaking to them about your work or your products or services. Where are they getting excited? Where are they laughing? Where are they asking you questions? I mean, literally write that stuff down when they do it, because that's going to become your differentiation or part of your marketing material. Like, pay it. That just happened to me. I know we're out of time, but I'm still going to keep going. That happened to me today. I was speaking to a person about a client of mine. Like, it just so happened to come up in conversation. And I brought up a concept from the client of mine, and the person I was speaking to said, that's so important. And they were writing it down. So I called up my client and I said, of all the different concepts, that you have, I thought of this one, and that guy thought it was the most important thing he'd ever heard. You need to write a book on that. You need to write a speech on that. That needs to be the main idea when you're pitching, and so forth. So in other words, just pay attention to how people are reacting in big emotional ways already, and they're going to give you tips about what it is you should feature.
I love that. And that comes back not only to testing your brand, but testing anything. Don't take anything seriously. Think of it as a test. Run a test. See what happens. If the test is successful, build on it. If it's more successful, build on it more. But remember what Mark told you today. It's not supposed to be with you forever. You are a rocket ship, and your brand and differentiation is that thrust that takes you out of the atmosphere, and it needs to fall off at some point. Right now, with the speed of change that we're working with the uncertainty and volatility we're dealing with, most of us have to reinvent our branding. Even if the central core is the same, the way we speak about it, the way we position our key ideas, it will evolve. It will become more or less relevant. So we need to learn how not to be attached, and remember that we're so much more than any one brand, any one product, or any one idea we put forward. So Mark, thank you so much for reminding us.
Thank you so much.
It's been an honor to have you. And of course, thank you for years and years. You continue to kind of midwife reinvention out of me. That's the way I think about it.
That's a great analogy. I like
that. I think that's the thing, is that if you don't have a good midwife, or I don't know what's the men version of a midwife, if you don't have a good specialist, the baby can accidentally die in the process. So it's been very, very important at every stage to work with you and to keep taking reinvention to the higher and higher levels, that now it is not only just an idea, it's a mindset, it's a method, and a movement, and a growing movement around the world. And you've been instrumental in making that happen. So thank you so very much. And I can't wait to see you back on the Reinvention show. So big, big, big warm thank you.
Thank you so much. And thanks, everyone.
And for all of you, I need your feedback. This is an experiment. We have no clue what we're doing here. This is the very first Reinvention show we are hosting. It's a complete experiment, and I would love to hear your feedback. What do you want the show to be about? The coming episodes, we have a CEO of a marketing agency with me next Thursday, speaking about reinvention from the CEO perspective. What is the responsibility of CEO when it comes to reinvention, and how does she make sense of the volatility and uncertainty, especially in the context of the pandemic? We will have many other topics and many guests. And of course, I'm happy to host shows on my own by answering your questions and going deeper in some of our tools and methods and so on. But I need your feedback. I need your questions. I need your guidance on what you want to cover. And I have a big, big gift to you. We have a 5-day reinvention lab coming up. It's always free event. It's always super interactive. 5 days, a global community of few hundred management professionals, consultants, coaches, executives, business owners. We all come together for 5 days, and we use step-by-step 5-day process to reinvent ourselves. Sometimes people come in with their teams and reinvent their product. Sometimes people reinvent their processes, their personal brand, their positioning, their overall business model. We are having the next one on August 30th. And I would absolutely love to welcome you to the next lab. It's the last lab we are hosting in 2021. It's absolutely free. We do provide you worksheets, recording if you cannot make it live, and it is a lot of fun. So I invite you all to join. We will put this in the comments for those of you who are watching in the replay, and those of you who are watching live. This is learntoreinvent.com/lab. Would love to see you there. Thank you so much for all the comments. I see that this was great show, Oksana. Thank you so much. Put in the questions in the comments. What is the topic that is burning for you for the next one? Uta says the idea of this conversation. Look forward for the one. Excellent. And somebody says, we need more time. We need more time. This is too short. So let's see. Maybe we expand it next time and bring back Mark. And of course, for Mark, this was great. Thank you for great insights. For all of you who join us for the very first Reinvention show we've ever held, our inaugural show, love that you took the time, and would love to see you every Thursday, 11 a.m. US Eastern. Until then, have an amazing week ahead of you, and share your stories of reinvention so that we can be inspired by them. Bye, everyone.